Welcome to Midlife Entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Lynette Turner. If you've ever known what you want next, had a plan, but then suddenly froze, this episode is going to be for you. Today, my guest and I are talking about why you freeze when one simple question could probably help you shift, and that is, what story am I telling myself right now? Today, my guest, Kathleen Quinn, she's a mindset coach who helps people reconnect to what they truly want, grounded in their values, and take the next step even when they don't feel ready. Kathleen, welcome to the show. I'm going to hand the floor over to you. Give yourself a bit of an introduction, and then we're going to take it from there.
Thank you, Lynette, and thank you to anyone who's listening. I really appreciate being part of Midlife Entrepreneurs. I certainly am one. I started out my career in alumni and development work for universities, which I did for 35 years. And I took early retirement after 18 years at Stanford University on the West Coast and decided I couldn't retire at 56 and not work, even though my late husband at the time was 12 years older than I was. So we were going to have fun and do lots of great things. But I decided to become a coach as something I could do as a side gig. And then in 2001, my husband passed away from pancreatic cancer, and I made the move back to Madison, Wisconsin, my hometown. In the intervening 5 years, this has really become my business. And I'm working close to full time now, either with clients or promoting my business. So it's become a real joy for me, but it doesn't mean I don't have moments where I freeze, because I certainly do.
Exactly. I know even when we were on our pre-call, Kathleen and I, we were just chatting and that is my thing. Like, I know it and it's worked and I've piloted it and everything. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, nope, I'm frozen. So when we were talking on the pre-call about like kind of what is the one problem we want to bring to the podcast today, that really resonated with me. And I think it's going to resonate with a lot of the listeners. So, Kathleen, you said something in your introduction that I want to just kind of bring out a little bit. You said you were 56 years old, you took early retirement from the university, your husband passed, you moved back home. There's two things there that made me think about something. And, 56, retiring, and so many of my friends who are in the same age group were all saying the same thing. Now what? Am I actually going to say I'm retired? So talk a little bit about that. I'd love to know the process that you went through because you did tell me on the pre-call that, you probably could have retired and traveled and done all the things, but you chose not to. So walk us through that. And like, how did you end up finding, I guess, your path?
Sure. When I worked at Stanford University, I was in a leadership role, and the university had created this leadership academy so that they could train people up from within to take roles. And I had a coach as part of that work, and I found it to be really useful for me. When I told my coach that I was taking early retirement, and he said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, I was wondering if maybe I should become a coach." So I talked to him a little bit about what that would be like and different programs I could take part in. And so I chose one of them and signed up for it in 2019 because I retired in the fall of 2018. So I retired officially in August of 2018. So I took the course in the fall of 2018 and started coaching in 2019. And so the decision to retire was an easy one because Stanford has this program of age and years of service. And if the number's right, you can buy into the retirement healthcare program. And so that's what I was able to do. And Michael and I had spent some time with a financial advisor to understand how we were positioned and whether we could do this. Of course, selling a house in California and moving to Oregon is, also very helpful. So that's what we did. And I decided that we would play and we would have a lot of fun, but I would also have clients at the same time. And so I wasn't pushing myself to market the job. Wasn't a job. It was like there were my clients and that was it. It wasn't like I had this whole business that I had to, people are like, you need to do social media. You need to do all these things. And I'm like, no, I don't. I have this one client who likes to refer people and he's great at referring people. And so I just kind of lived with what I had, and 3 or 4 clients at any time was plenty. And so life just kind of moved along until it changed.
And when you talk to your coach about becoming a coach, did you sort of feel like that's what everybody kind of does in midlife? We all become coaches. But did you get some accreditation as well? Like, did you feel the need to do the accreditation side of it?
Yes.
So walk us through sort of the next
Sure.
steps after that. Yeah.
The reason I thought that becoming a coach was a natural extension of what I did was in my role as a leader at Stanford, I listened a lot. I listened to our donors and our trustees about what their views were, what they wanted, what their hopes and aspirations were, and was there a match for them at Stanford and what we were trying to raise money for. So I listened a lot to people and I asked questions to try to really make sure I understood what they were intending. And on the flip side of it, back at the office, I managed a team of development officers who went out and did the same thing. So I would try to understand where were they maybe not getting everything they needed from the people they were talking to, or just helping them understand what barrier was holding them back from moving forward. It's been 2 months since I talked to them. I'm not sure. I feel like I've waited too long to call them, whatever. And well, how can you get over that? What do you need to do? So I was trying to be less prescriptive and more listening. Back in the day, I probably was prescriptive. My colleagues listening would say I was prescriptive, but at times I tried to just listen. And so that natural curiosity and listening and helping people became a really clear baseline to become a coach. It was just it wasn't for any intended purpose as it was in my work in development. So it was natural. I absolutely wanted to be certified in the way to do it. So I worked with the Neuro Leadership Institute, Dr. David Rock does, and got really trained in their results coaching. So that was really about, okay, over the next 6 months, what are you trying to do? I'm trying to find a new job. What are your steps? What are you going to do toward that? What have you done? If you didn't do it, what does that tell you? So just to help people move through to achieve the results that they wanted. And that was the form of coaching I started out doing. So it was a real natural extension of what I had done throughout my life, rather than like going into sales or other things that people might have thought a natural extension. The coaching really resonated and I had benefited from it. So I understood the power of it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And so when you think about that natural extension to what you already do, I think that's such a good way of saying it because I know a lot of midlife women would probably think, well, I don't know what I want to do. I know I want to keep working. Some have to keep working financially, some don't. But I think it's mostly just now in midlife, we get to this stage where, we could kind of start doing a few things that we enjoy doing. What would you say to somebody where, you kind of knew the natural progression was problem solving, like being results driven, like where do you want to go? And then sort of developing the path to get them there. What would you say to a woman that's thinking, well, what could I do? How would you help her identify what that is?
Sure. Probably two different answers to that. One is there's a book called Infinite Impact, and it helps you get in alignment with what matters most to you. And so it's really asking you questions about who do you feel like you're meant to serve in your life, or what cause, or what purpose? What is it that you want to be doing? And it's very detailed question and answer process that comes down to then a vision of what you want and why you want to do it. When I first started working on getting in alignment, I was like, I don't have a why. It's not my why. It's just about my clients. Doesn't matter to me. And the person who was helping me with this said, Kathleen, you don't do it just for them. What does it give you? Why do you get up in the morning? And for me, it gives me joy. I don't do this. I have the financial freedom to not have to do this. I'm blessed in that regard. Some people choose to do whatever matters to them because it gives them freedom, right? Or maybe they choose to do something because it gives them the intellectual stimulation that they need. Right. So everybody's got a different thing of what is it that I want to be able to do. I did not want to go out and become a development consultant. I can tell you that. A lot of people thought, oh, she'll start consulting. And like, I'm done. I'm done with that part of my work. And it was not where I wanted to stay focused. I wanted to help people. And I did kind of focus on a set of people who were not unlike my donors, right? Well-established, people who had accomplished professionals. And so that was kind of my niche that I work in. Another woman who I know as a coach is coming out of government service, and she wants to work with people who are running for office because that's a natural thing she knows how to do. So I think one of the important things is You don't have to completely leave where you were, but you can look at what would be a natural extension of what you did and who might be the people you could serve in that regard. So that's one of the things that I think is really helpful. I
Yeah.
think I think the other thing, and sometimes some people are good at journaling. I'm not a good journaler. I'm more extroverted. I speak. And one of the things that someone helped me with was to just pick up your phone, go outside, go out in nature and go for a walk and just start recording yourself saying, what is it that matters to me? What do I think I might want to do? And you just start talking. And if you get stuck, it's like, I wonder why I'm stuck. And you just keep talking about what would it be fun to do? And just ask yourself a bunch of questions. And then suddenly things start coming out. You start saying things that are within you that maybe you didn't realize. So you could get a coach, but more importantly, you can also just do it on your own, is to think about what is it that really matters to me. And part of what I learned was the reason this became my full-time gig was after Michael died, I realized I wanted something that gave me purpose. It was the pandemic, or the place where I was living. There was a fire, the theater had shut down. It was like life was getting really small. And I thought, I know that life is short now. I've witnessed this in a very profound way. And I want to do something that matters. And I want to make a difference in the world in some way. But I also don't want to be so tied down that I have a full-time job. I can still travel. I can coach people from wherever I am. It's all time zones. That's all it is. Zoom and time zones. And so that's what I knew I wanted to do. But it was because it gave me a very specific purpose. So that's part of what it is like, how long do you want to do something? I don't know. I could do this for 10 or 15 years still. It's
And
hard
I
to
think,
say.
yeah, and like for me, I'm just listening to you and I was thinking like, and it keeps you connected, I think. Like for me, I'll put it into the podcast perspective.
Mhm.
In October of last year, I had to stop taking any more pre-calls or recordings because I was just so backed up. And so I didn't do a recording until the end of January, I think was my first recording. And I thought, I really missed this. I really, truly missed it. And I feel like it's because, you talked about the pandemic and things were starting to get tight. And yes, I know we are, we're out and about more often now, but I think we still get this sense of tightness. Like you're trying to find your friend group, you're trying to maintain your friend group. I think just that when you said, this gives you purpose, I think it lights you up because you've got this opportunity to talk to somebody and get to see the fruits of your labor too, like to see
Yes.
this person grow. It's kind of like, that butterfly effect. I want to
Oh,
go back.
absolutely.
Yeah. I want to go back to what you said about, if you're feeling stuck, just go out for a walk and just start talking to yourself. And I just absolutely love that because I think it's your higher self truly knows that walk with yourself is I'm going to say a bit of a meditative approach.
Yes.
So when you hear a woman say, I'm stuck, what does that usually look like in real life, like day to day for that person?
So I think people say they're stuck for a couple of different reasons. And what I would do is ask them to describe what that looks like and what it feels like. And have they ever been stuck before? And is this the same or different? So are they dealing with some belief? I'm stuck because how could I have my own business? I couldn't do that. I don't know how to set up an LL. I don't know how to do this. When really all of those things are possible. It's asking for help. Or you can do any of those things. We're not asking you to run a marathon at 65 with no training. That can be a little bit much. So it's asking them to describe what it feels like to be stuck. Then you start to unpack those beliefs for them and just say, what do you think makes you feel that way? And what is it that you really desire? And here's one of the things I've learned about desire. We are afraid to give ourselves desire. We've worked so hard. We've done all the things we were supposed to do. We've done what was right. People raised their kids. People worked. People took care of their parents, whatever it was. They did all the things they were supposed to do. And now they have this space where maybe they get to do what they want to do. And they're afraid of it. They're afraid of what that means or whatever it might be. They're not willing to grant themselves the right to have desires. And so one of the things that people can do is an exercise to just write down everything they desire. Crazy, have a private jet, whatever it is, right? Anything you want. Write it all down. And then what you do is you write a feeling next to it of what is the feeling you will have if you get that desire. I've always thought I want to own my own card store, right? What would it be like? Well, I'd be tied down to work. I wouldn't want to do that anymore. But, then it's the desire that you have. That's what you hold on to. So I want to be healthier and I want to be fit. Well, instead of saying I have to go to the gym 5 days a week, I hold on to the feeling of what it's like when I get done working out or what it's like when I am working out. That's what I hold on to, not just the task orientation. So it's about letting people express that they have a desire that maybe they've never told anyone.
Yeah, no, I love that. When you were saying like, what is the feeling that's attached to that desire? I think that's so good because it will, I think, allow you to feel, like you just said, allow you to feel like you've got it. I'm
Yes.
always a big believer in thinking like this is what you want, but now what are you thinking, feeling, and doing while you have it? And it just
Yes.
puts a whole different perspective to it.
Here's a question that I ask people sometimes if they're feeling stuck and they're feeling like they can't have something they want. And I ask them, what are you making that mean about you? What are you making that mean? That you can't have your own business, that you can't learn the piano at 50, that you can't take up golf or pickleball or whatever it is. Whatever you desire, what are you making it mean about you? My mom never got to do anything like that.
Mhm.
I I don't want to afford it. It'll take me away from my kids. Okay, well, are those things more important or is the desire more important? Right. And you kind of but you start to identify what you're making it mean about you that you won't grant yourself that desire.
Yeah, and I want to stay on that because I know on our pre-call you had an aha for your own self where you asked yourself that exact question. But it
Exactly.
came because you were freezing with the moment to do the thing that you wanted to do.
Yeah.
So, through your story,
Sure.
answer what do you think is really happening in that moment where somebody freezes? Like why am I freezing? Even though I know it's going to work or I want that for the next chapter of my life.
Yes.
So, and you've got a great story that answers that.
Yes. So through this coaching that I've been doing for the last 7 years, and then 35 years of having done alumni and development, I had found a space. Someone had asked me to give a talk, and it went well. So just with that as background, I'd given a talk about philanthropy, and I integrated what I had learned with what I've learned in coaching about how people feel about themselves and stuff. And so I had come up with this idea of creating a segment of my business that was about the power of aligned philanthropy. So if you really align with what matters most to you, you can create a process of what you want to give, whether you have $5 to give or $500,000. Doesn't matter. Just like what is it that you want to do and how do you really create a path so you're not just being reactive, but you can actually be proactive and do something that creates the impact you want in the world. I had come up with this. I had a plan, all these kinds of things. And the next step was to get it on my website. And I just sat here. I have my web designer. I sat here and I was talking to my own coach and I was like, I'm really kind of frozen. I don't know what it is. I don't think I should be doing it. And here's what unlocked me, which was perfect. I got in my email the recording of a podcast I had done the month earlier, and it was about to go live. I listened to the recording. I sounded so confident. I knew what I was talking about. It's like I'd been doing it for 5 years. And I just thought, okay, you know how to do it. You're frozen. What's wrong? And I went through this belief process with myself. And what I realized was I had been out of circulation in the philanthropic industry, so to speak, for 7 years. I did not have the backing of Stanford University behind me, other than I can put it in my bio. And what I realized was growing up, I grew up in the 1960s. Girls weren't leaders then. Girls weren't viewed as someone who would be out running their own business, talking about people's money. These were all against the odds. And what hit me was I was telling myself, who's going to listen to me? Who would listen to me about this? And then I listened to myself. And it struck me that I wasn't giving myself credit for what I had to offer because I believed I had this core belief that, girls have to prove themselves. And who am I to be creating something brand new? I'm not a creator, I'm a follower. I was never the vice president. I was always one step behind the vice president for development, right? I was not the creator. I was the follower, the doer. And here I was creating something. And who was I to do that?
Yeah, no, and
Yeah.
No, we don't even know that that is happening. Like that's the driver of the bus, that thing, and you don't even know it's happening. And it's only when you can ask that question, what am I making this mean about me? So what kind of stories tend to come up when you're when you're working with your clients?
I can't leave this job because I have this family to take care of, and I can't have what happened to me happen to them because when I was growing up, my parents didn't have enough. So I always have to keep setting the threshold so I never lose. So I'm never behind. And when you ask them if that's going to happen to them, realistically, it's not. So there's some people who get tied up in I'm doing better than my parents, and that's problematic. Or there's people who get tied up in I'm so afraid what happened to my dad was so unexpected, it could happen to me. And then the question is it realistically going to happen to you? No. If it does, do you have enough? Yes. Then what can you do? And what happens is the person can decide to stay in the job they're in, but then they come in every day with a feeling of, I'm choosing this. I'm not owned by it. I could walk away if I want to. It's okay if I don't stay here, right? So someone who wants to, like I did, I could have stayed another 4 years at Stanford and worked until I was 60 out of some obligation that I cannot stop working until I'm 60. Made up story, but based on whatever. I would have lost the 4 years that my husband and I had fun before he passed away.
Right.
But I could have had more money. And of course, what would be my trade-off? Every day with him I could have had, right? And so,
Yeah.
and you don't get that card that tells you that's what's going to happen. So it's that notion of having some story you tell yourself about what has to happen. What you have to do is be able to break it down and say, what are you making that mean about you? And what story are you telling yourself that is not fact, but is actually just a story? And then
That,
be able to say, what is it that you really want? And then part of what I talk about with people is through this book by Nancy Levin about jump. How do you jump and make your life appear? And a lot of it is being able to admit what you already know to be true. I knew that this aligned philanthropy thing could work. I'd talk to people about it. I'd admitted it to people, but then my resistance comes up. And you have to just honor that resistance and say, of course, I'm trying to protect myself from either failing and feeling bad, succeeding and feeling like, oh, shoot, now I have to do work this hard. Who knows which it is? Some people are afraid of failing. Some people are afraid of success. Just depends. So I think you hear different things from different people, but so often it comes back to how did you grow up and what did you learn? And I just did this money beliefs workshop for a group of women who are creating new chapters in their life, the How Women Lead Power Your Next Chapter. And I just talked to them about money beliefs. And they were like, wow, I did not realize how grounded this is and how I grew up. Well, of course it is. We all listen to our parents deal with money. Did they spend money on you? Did they not? Did your friends have parents who spent money on you? Did someone lose a job? How did those things happen? Did your siblings get more, what do you call it when you pay kids money? Allowance? We never got an allowance. Did you get less allowance than your siblings? What is it that you have told yourself that makes you not enough? Because what it comes down to is we say, I am not enough. I don't do enough. I have to do more and I will never have enough. And all of that is worthiness.
yeah.
And when you can stand in your truth and your worthiness and say, I am enough, I don't have to do more, and I have enough, whatever it might be, then you can build from there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So how do you think, because you were talking about like constraints there, and
Mhm.
some of them are just kind of fear-based stories, and some
Yeah.
are actual constraints, like maybe taking care of that parent, or you can't do that right now, you can't leave your job right now. How do you know, like, what could somebody do to understand if it's a real constraint or if it's actually a fear-based story that they are telling themselves?
Well, I think you ask the question, you separate, is this a story or is this a fact? And if taking care of an elderly parent because there's no one else around to do it and there isn't enough money for them to receive care somewhere else, well, that's kind of a fact. You're in this. You've committed. Now, you could let them go to some terrible home where there's, not a lot of resources, but assuming that you're going to want to be the one to take care of the person, that's a fact of life. You need to do this. There could be the story where you're one of 5 kids. Well, I'm the only one who can take care of mom because, well, is that really true? Oh, well, my sister will never do it the right way. What's the right way? Is there a fact around that? So a lot of times what we do is we take a fact and we wrap a story around it of, the fact is mom needs to be cared for. The story I wrap around it is I'm the only one who can do it the right way. Everyone else will screw this up. No, they'll do it a different way than you do it, but mom's still going to be okay. And you have to be the one to do it because you never got to take care of her when she was sick when you were younger, because you abandoned her when you went away to college and she needed you at some point and you weren't there for her. You want to show that you're better than your siblings. There's some story you're wrapping around this. And so you can stop and ask, is this really true? Is it really that you have to be the one? So separate the fact from the fiction and recognize that there's sometimes pain that's connected to that, some grief.
Yeah.
I wasn't there when dad died and I should have been. So now I have to be there for mom every moment of every day. Well, no, you don't.
Exactly.
Please
So
give yourself some grace, right?
exactly. And so I think about this and I think, okay, well, what are those? I think those little triggers that you listen for in language that somebody is telling you something, and you can kind of tell that they're in this spiral, right? And there's that talent of problem solving and things like that, that you can probably pick up a few of those triggers. But I think I want you to explain it in a way that as if I wanted to try to recognize them myself.
The word always and the word never. I've always been the one to take care of mom. I can't start my side gig now. I've always been the one to take care of her, and I always will have to be. Or I could never start my own business. No one would ever give me money to help me start my own business. So it's the absolutes, always and never, and anything that feels like that. How could I possibly? So it's any of those kinds of phrases are triggers for you to stop and say, is it really true? Maybe it's true this week. Maybe it's true this week because mom just went in the hospital. Okay, so you're not going to start your business this week, but it doesn't mean you can't do it at some point. Could even be when she's still, struggling, but things are just a little better and you can start doing some steps. It doesn't have to be that you have to wait, right?
Yeah. No,
So you're listening
exactly.
for things like, I never could. I always have to do this. It's not possible for me. Any of those kinds of phrases, you just have to say, is that really true?
Right. Oh, it just makes me think, I have a very dear friend who will not connect or commit to this person that she's with, because he's a lot older than her. And I don't know why your story is triggering this for me. Um, but it's exactly that. Well, anything could happen. You could be the one that goes first. Like there's stories that she's telling that why she can't be with that person. He's too old, like, well, like I don't, but I feel like those are sort of fear-based stories that she's telling herself. So it's not just even in starting business.
Yeah.
It's like going out and meeting new people and just, taking the leap, as you say, that the book. Tell me the
Jump,
book's name again.
jump, and your life will appear.
Jump and your life will appear. And that, oh my God, takes a lot of courage. So what do you think it means when, like in practice, for a woman who wants to jump and your life will appear, but she wants to feel safe doing it? And I know we'll always attach that jump to like, well, I don't have enough money. I don't have this. I don't have that. I can't do that jump right now. But what can she do to feel safe and actually take the jump? Because that's probably when all that stuff she says she doesn't have is going to show up.
Right. So you do it in stages. I think people think everything has to, like you have to. One of the people that I've done coaching with is like, well, I don't know how to set up an LLC and I don't want to have to do social media to market my business. And who's going to want to be my clients? And all of these are questions geared toward it won't. You have to start breaking those things down into the positives. What would it look like if I asked someone for help in setting up my business? Who are the kinds of people I've helped in the past? How could I help them in the future? Right. So just starting to turn the things that are the negative statements into what would it be like if I could do this? Like the example of the woman who worked in government and now she's going to work with women running for office, right? It's just taking a spin on it. And then she'll coach them once they get into office.
Yeah,
So
that's an excellent segue career. Like it makes so
it's a
much
perfect
logical sense.
segue. But if I tried to do that, I wouldn't know how to help them, guide them through their leadership journey of starting being in office. I wouldn't know how to do that necessarily. I mean, I probably couldn't figure it out, but she's got a talent for that. And more importantly, she's going to be able to attract clients because they're going to be like, oh, I know her, Susie, I know her from
Yeah.
whatever, or someone refers you, right? So that's
Right.
part of it, is being able to break it down into smaller pieces and understanding what you're saying isn't possible and saying, okay, just for fun, let's flip it around. What would it look like if it was possible? What could I do?
Yeah.
And then
Right.
having a community, I mean, I have a, what do I call it? Kind of my inner circle of people that when I'm going to start something new, it's my sister, it's a couple of family members, it's one of my sister's friends who's like one of my greatest advocates. She's always pushing me out there into things. And it's my former clients and current clients who I talk to sometimes about what I'm doing. And then you get this small cohort of people, and I have a business strategist now, and you talk to them about what you're thinking about. And then they offer you suggestions, and it's like, oh yeah, I could do that. Because you think everything has to be really big, that you have to bite off
Yeah.
the whole thing. You don't.
No, exactly.
And someone said to me, there's this thing called the internet where you can ask it 1,000 questions about how do I do that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But you know what? AI will still never push you through the fear. Like it just
Oh no.
it never will. It will say, "Oh yeah, like that's really great thinking, and you should be thinking
Yeah.
this way and that way,"
Yeah.
whatever the stuff it feeds
Right.
you. But so I know you've given a lot of really great little tips, but I'm going to ask one more question. For the listener who is listening right now, they know their story, but they're feeling frozen. What is that smallest, as you say, what is the smallest next step you want her to take in the next 24 hours?
Either sit down and journal, or if the weather's good enough, go out for a walk and just record, like breathe for a little bit, do whatever kind of meditation you can do to say, I'm going to let go of all of the things that seem like they wouldn't be possible. I'm going to let go of how it's all going to work. And all I'm going to do is talk about, what is it that I want? What do I desire? And what would it feel like for me if I had it? What would it feel like to have that? And then give yourself permission to have that desire and to want that feeling.
Yeah. And then there's a whole pile of ChatGPT prompts that you can use after that.
Well, it has been
Uh,
helpful to me at points in time, but
Well, yeah, but it needs, we've all talked about it, right? Shitty input is shitty
yeah,
output. So
yeah,
it needs that true feeling that of what you want, or
right.
it will then, So Kathleen, thank you for being with me today. If somebody is listening and they want support, what's
Mhm.
the best way for them to connect with you and learn more about the work you're doing?
Sure. My website is KathleenAQuinn.com, KathleenAQuinn. I'm also on LinkedIn, but if you go onto my website, there's a place to sign up for a free half-hour chit chat.
Okay.
And I'm always excited to listen to what people might be intrigued by and just
Yeah.
talk.
Great. Well, awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your insights and your story. It's great. And I think that it's very relatable. So
Thank you.
yeah, thank you for sharing.
And thank you for what you do.
Thank you.